This is Office Hours, where the brightest entrepreneurial minds in business, sports, and entertainment get together to talk about success, failure, and everything in between. Take a deep dive into the mindset it takes to excel as our unbelievable hosts and guests share with you the strategies and tools they've used to dominate their respective fields. On this episode of Office Hours, Danica Patrick, Jimmy Mistry, Sadhguru, Zach Weiner, and Rory Kutaya.
How do you decide what it is you're going to be passionate about?
Well, I don't think I decide. I think that's the point. I think you find it.
Literally anyone could be their own QVC or home shopping network.
What's your mindset when you're building a company?
If you do not invent misery, you will be happy.
I love that.
He's approaching business as a spiritual discipline.
David Meltzer hosts Office Hours. We have some amazing guests coming up. But first, let me introduce you to our host, David Meltzer. Growing up with a single mother who raised 6 kids, David was driven to be rich so he could take care of his mom and buy her a house and a car. After graduating law school, he became a multi-millionaire and fulfilled that dream, only to lose that house, car, and over $100 million due to bankruptcy. Thanks to his resilience, David has been able to make it all back and more, evolving into one of the world's top serial entrepreneurs and esports investors. Today, he's on a mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, providing as much value as possible in everything he does. Let's go to this week's Executive Spotlight. Each week, we'll be interviewing the top entrepreneurs and executives, sharing their personal playbook to success and the lessons they've learned along the way. Rory Kutaya is a serial tech entrepreneur who sold his first startup for more than $200 million. Now CEO of NASDAQ-listed Verb Technology Company, he's disrupting the sales software industry.
Rory, welcome. I am so excited that you're here. And the reason is that, obviously my background's in sales and your background's in sales. Sales has been the foundation of Verb itself. It was really a sales tool to start, but way back in 2012. And so I thought, to talk about how a sales tool, a SaaS solution for sales has turned into an entire commerce play that can be utilized on all platforms to integrate products and sales like never seen before. How does that evolution happen over the last 9 years?
Well, first, thank you, Professor Meltzer, for having me on today. The world has changed rather dramatically over the past 9 years. In fact, even over the past just several years.
9 months.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride for a lot of people. The whole process of selling has changed. People don't really want to read almost anything anymore. People want to consume information by watching videos, and they want to share information through videos. So in order to succeed at sales, you need to communicate with people. You need your message to resonate. So if you don't have video as part of your sales and marketing initiatives, you're kind of really not even in the game, right? So we created a sales tool that is based around video. Simple, easy to use video that you can create yourself on your cell phone. But we took it to the next level, because what we found is that when people watch your video, if they're actually interested in your product or service, if they have to leave the video to contact you, whether it's call a phone number or go to a website, you lose 80% of the people that are actually interested in your product or service. Because why? Like me, we're all kind of ADD, and
it's also an impulse buy. I mean, there's still a reason that when we line up at stores, there's 1,000 products as we leave.
Exactly.
And how many times we buy stuff.
We all have that innate impulse buy propensity. So the success for someone in sales is to feed that, to leverage it. So what we did is we created interactive video so that one of our app users could simply and easily place right in their video, whether it's one they just shot with their cell phone or one that they imported, their sales and marketing department wants them to use, and they could place a button right in the video, for example, that says, buy it now, or click here to open my calendar and click on an available time slot to make an appointment with me. And that ability to eliminate friction from the sales process is driving conversion rates through the roof. So that's been our bread and butter product over the past couple of years.
I think both of us a little bit more seasoned. You have several successful exits. And I joke around that I was blessed to be on Sand Hill Road way back when Yahoo was an index tool and Google was a search optimization tool.
Right.
And it reminds me of Verb. That's how big I believe Verb can be, because I see the same type of evolution and, more importantly, the same type of leader in you that those great companies haven't had in order to evolve. What is it that you see that other people don't? When you could take, 2012, you have your standard kind of sales SaaS business, and then you utilize the capabilities of what you're building and adjust, and now you make a first adjustment towards the integration of sales into video, and now you have this another Verb Live, which I think is your latest thing. What's your mindset when you're building a company for a long term that, hey, we have to be able to adjust because I don't know what I don't know?
Indeed. There's a really interesting and very apropos Gretzky quote that's become sort of a metaphor, and that is, you want to skate to where you think the puck is going to be as opposed to where it is, right? So that is really, I would say, our gift, our secret sauce, whatever made it work for us. We really took a look at what was happening in the market, and I mentioned about people not wanting to read, they want to watch videos, and we thought about, well, where is that going? Where's that going to be? Because had we started working on that at that moment, by the time it was completed, because software development is a lengthy, process, and it's ups and downs and trials and tribulations. Had we begun working on just that, which a lot of companies did, then by the time it was completed, the market would have already changed. So you need to think about, where's the market going to be? And we visualized that the market would be clickable, shoppable video. And that's what we set out to create.
What I love about Verb and why I think it's going to be successful is it's simple. And if you look at Google again, or Craigslist, for example, who'd have ever thought, with all the beautiful UI and creative design and all the things that people pour into these type of marketplaces, that one of the most successful places is a list of links. But the reason it's the same reason that PIM application, personal information management applications, are so successful, is because all these other people are trying to do all these things that you're never going to use, when all you really want to find out is, what's the phone number? What day am I supposed to be here and what time? You have translated that into a sales SaaS solution that's integrated into live video.
Yes.
What is that like, to be able to talk to these developers and say, hold on, I know you have the capability, but people need to be able to use this?
You're exactly right. Simplicity is key, because if people can't use it, then they're not going to use it. If it's hard to use, they're not going to use it, and your product is going to fail. It could be great, it could have a million bells and whistles, but if it's too hard to use, or if the learning curve's too steep, people are just not going to do it. So making it simple, intuitive, easy to use was absolutely essential to the success of the product. What we did with Verb Live is we recognized that people were beginning to use webinars and Zoom calls to promote their products and services. So we figured out how to take our interactive buttons to be able to place them in a live broadcast. Now anyone, literally anyone, could be their own QVC or home shopping network, broadcasting themselves to all of their clients, friends, followers, customers, and giving those people watching the ability to just click on the screen as their impulse strikes them, and that's driving unbelievable conversion. But the beauty of this is, not only does this apply to the largest sales organizations on the planet, many of which are our clients, but this makes it simple and easy for even that single mom trying to generate that additional income that they need to get through, that could broadcast themselves, put the clickable buttons on the screen, and actually be in business within hours.
Unbelievable. So, for example, in the sports world, we've opened up the ability to allow college athletes and students to make money without losing their scholarship to stay eligible. Now, the third string hockey player at Harvard is able and capable of creating their own content and merch.
Yes.
Or
yes.
just their favorites of merch that they may not even have self-branded.
Yes. Levels the playing field for everyone.
To that point, you are a public company and you've had several exits in your career successfully. What do you look at, as a public CEO, with your concern of shareholder value? Is it any different in building a company, your perspective of the solution itself, because you have the extra pressure of shareholder value in mind that sometimes the shareholders may not understand why you're making an investment into video when no one else is doing it, because you are skating to where the puck's going to be, but a lot of times shareholders don't understand that.
That's very
they
true.
can affect the stock price.
That's very true. And being able to communicate your value proposition, your intentions, and the why is critically important, because if you don't communicate, then you're right, shareholders will turn, they'll sell off your stock, and it becomes difficult. Today's world in running a public company is very, very different. Today, not only are we focused on creating shareholder value and driving revenue and profits, but now we also have to be focused on ESG scores, which is environmental, social, and governance scores. As a company, we have to demonstrate our commitment to the environment, to social issues and governance, and that places an additional burden on public company CEOs and management teams and boards. But I think it's a good move. I think it's all of us have to do something, right, to affect change and to address problems in the world. And the fact that NASDAQ and the SEC believes that this is something that companies should adopt, I applaud them. And we were one of the earliest companies on NASDAQ to adopt ESG practices, and I think that's really a terrific thing.
Yeah, it allows you to personally express to, I know, the alignment of your true beliefs of a greater good, of sharing the philosophy
Indeed.
I have of making money and helping people.
Yes, you and I have that in common.
And of course, having fun. Just to finish up, you're such a visionary, you've had such success. I'd love to hear what you think's coming up next. So you have your Verb Live. What's the next step? Where are you skating to now?
Well, I believe that as we look out into the not too distant future, we're going to see the true convergence of pure entertainment and shoppability. So just as a Verb Live product, you're broadcasting yourself, it's a show essentially, and people can click on the screen and purchase. I think we're going to see all content become shoppable, because people are going to want that. Sponsors are going to want that. For example, if you're a sponsor of a program right now, you're paying X dollars, but you have no idea whether or not people are actually watching it. You're getting your Nielsen reports weeks down the road, but you don't know that people actually watched it. Yes, the TV may have been tuned to the channel, but that really doesn't mean anything. But with these new technology, Verb Live, and the products that we're going to be introducing, sponsors will know in real time who actually watched, how long they watched, what did they click on, what did they buy, and they'll get a real-time return on investment that didn't exist prior to now with this new technology. That's where it's all going. We intend to lead that charge, and we've got some products coming out this year that people are going to be blown away. You're going to be a part of it.
I hope so, because season 2, click here if you want the Office Hours Dave Meltzer mug. Click right here.
That's exactly
I'm counting on you. Roy Kataia, CEO, Chairman, Founder of Verb Technologies. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Always
you.
a pleasure, my friend.
Let's do this again.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Office Hours.
Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Dave Meltzer, and I'm here with 3 esteemed guest hosts of mine. The incredible Ed McMahon, Jason Waller, CEO of Power Home Solar, and the True Underdog podcast, which is one of the best podcasts, top podcasts in the world. And I'm an incredible fan of your podcast as a celebrant. Thank you for joining me, my friend. Bam! And of course, my mentor, the youngest mentor I have, the most beautiful mentor I have, Kim Perrell, CEO of 100 Co., her newest company after 2 big exits, an author, angel investor, and a mentor to many, highlighted on Entrepreneur Magazine almost every day. Just your wisdom is incredible, and your friendship's even more valuable to me. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here.
And another mentor, not my youngest mentor, but an incredible, wise soul and dear, dear friend. I dare to say family. Blaine Bartlett, CEO of Avatar Resources, Inc., and learn.blainebartlett.com, which is his mindset mastermind, which I am a part of and mentored through as well. Blaine, you should always have at least 3 mentors, people who sit in the situation you want to be in, and here's 3 of them right here. Next, we have our incredible guest, Danica Patrick.
Our first guest is Danica Patrick, former professional race car driver, author, model, and co-founder of Danica Rosé.
Danica, welcome to Office Hours. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited to talk to you. You know, a lot of people don't realize that being a professional driver, being literally one of the world's greatest drivers of all time, that it's a team sport. And even myself being in the sports industry for years, I've always felt that the industry, whether it's Indy, NASCAR, Formula, that these are individual athletes. And what I learned is that it's probably one of the greatest team sports that exists, that although being a driver, you're not by yourself. And I think you've been able to, with Danica Rose, carry that team philosophy and the lessons that you learned from being a team leader over into your business, and that's why you have the success that you're having. How important was the team when you were driving, and how have you utilized those capabilities as a team leader with the Danica Rose company?
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. You're right. And if I may say, I think that greatness in any company or in any business or any endeavor, rarely is done alone. I think they all incorporate a lot of team atmosphere, but it's really about, like you said, the lessons that I learned. And so whether it's Danica Rose or Somnium or my podcast or any other thing that I take on, the team is really important. And I think that to be more elaborate or even specific about like what it is about the team is that in racing, I felt like there was always such a difference between somebody doing their job and doing a great job. And there's a lot of people that can do their job, but it doesn't really like move the needle. And so doing a great job is what is required of everybody. And the way that you end up getting people to want to do a great job is that they invest into you, is that they care about you. They care about you beyond the 9 to 5 and the paycheck. They care about you to the point where they don't look at hours on a clock. They just want to see it through, and they really don't want to let you down. And I think that those are some of the qualities within that really help push things to the next level.
Danica, we appreciate your time. I'm super excited to see an athlete become an entrepreneur. And I can hear your passion and what you're doing and the passion for your team and the culture that you're creating. Talk to the viewers out there about when you decide to divert to a different career path or pivot and change. How important is it to have that passion, that love and desire? So it's not a job, because the people working for you, they're not looking at the clock, they're excited. How do you create that? Because they follow their leader. How do you decide what it is you're going to be passionate about?
Well, I don't think I decide. I think that's the point. I think you find it. And you have to take chances, you have to try things, and you really have to get to know yourself. And that's not as easy as it sounds. Like, who are you? Like, I'm not Danica. I'm not the name I was given. I'm how I feel. I'm like what I enjoy, what lights me up, what makes me happy, what interests me, what energizes me. I really feel that your energetic response to an environment is a really good indication as to whether or not that's for you or not. You have to do things that I've learned over time really bring my energy up and give it to me versus drain it. I can do something for hours, like for instance my podcast. I can do that for hours, and by the end of it you'd think I'd be exhausted, because it's really harder to ask questions than it is to be asked questions, because you have to continuously think and be kind of navigating the conversation. But I can end those days feeling like I'm on a high. It's easy to see what it is that is for you and isn't for you when you follow the energy. And the same can be said, of course, for my wine brands, for Danica Rose and Somnium. People always ask me why I got involved in wine, and my answer is simple and silly, and it's that I like to drink it.
So do we. You should come over and visit us.
Exactly. I wish we had some right now.
Yes, Rose.
Danica, yeah, exactly. Rose all day. Danica, you're such an inspiration. It is so great to have you here. What advice would you give to other women out there that are looking to make big changes, life-changing leaps? That's really hard. Like, there's a lot of great individuals out there that have great ideas, but you've actually taken those leaps successfully. So someone that's sitting here watching you right now, what would you tell them that has an idea and they want to create something? Sure. How would you, what advice would you give them?
It's about trust falling into the universe. It's about following those things that are really bring you enjoyment, and just trusting that if you do a great job, that it will pay you back. because everything's just an energy exchange. Money's just energy. All the things that we do, everything is just made from energy. And so I believe if you find something that you love and you put a lot into it, it'll give a lot back to you. But something practical, nothing has to be done so very suddenly that it scares the living daylights out of you. There are things that are going to happen along the way, I think, in business that do, but you don't have to consciously take those leaps. You can start small. Like, side hustles are real. You don't have to just abandon ship, and especially if you have responsibilities, I don't think that you have to jump far and fast right away. Ultimately, the most important element of anything that you do or anything that you think is that you believe it. And so the way that you feel, like when you believe something with your whole heart, there's nothing stopping that. In fact, I really don't think there is. I think it's just purely a matter of time. For instance, I'm 5'1", nothing. If I believe that if I believed enough that I could dunk a basketball, I could, but there's no way I believe that at all. So, like, belief is a really, really powerful thing. And these constructs in this third dimensional reality really give us a lot of chains, but belief is beyond all of that.
Yeah, I love where you're coming from with this. Yeah, I've got a notion that I play with a lot in my life. It's already happened, I just haven't arrived. And as an entrepreneur, that is an energetic state. And it's not I'm committed to something, it is I am a commitment. And that statement of beingness, if I look at leadership as the activity of co-creating coordinated movement, which is something in the racing field, that's exactly what you're doing. How do you take this notion of it's already happened, I just haven't arrived, and translate that into a meaningful conversation with other people that you're actually counting on to work with you to co-create that coordinated movement?
That's a good question. I mean, we're skipping past. Yeah, I love that. They're skipping past it being about the one person wanting to create something or do something, and you're asking about the collective. And so, because with the one person, I truly believe in that when you want something so badly, there's an equal and opposite energy of being afraid you won't get it, which means the universe is confused and it doesn't do anything. And so you have to want something and let it go. I think there's also these like small little veins of passion within a business that go beyond just the business itself. I use the example like, somebody might not be excited to sell microphones, but they might love the sale, right? Or they might love the organization, or they might love the team aspect. There might be something about it that they're truly passionate about. And I say that because with racing, it wasn't racing that I loved. It was setting a goal and achieving it. It was the progression. It was hoping and getting better over time. And so I think the same thing exists within a group, is like finding everybody's individual niche of what it is that they're really good at, because it's what they enjoy, because usually what we enjoy is what we're good at or better.
One of the most interesting things, Danica, when I met you is you're like, I really didn't love racing. And I'm thinking, here's someone from the time, she could walk, she was in go-karts. And, and it's like Agassi, when I talked to him, right? He didn't love tennis, but he forced himself to learn to love the aspects, because there's light, love, and lessons and everything, which, you have evolved as well since the very first time at the IndyCar race. You almost ran me over and forgot about it. But I want to reach on that real quick, because I found it really intriguing that you named your podcast the Pretty Intense Podcast, because the Danica I met years and years ago was probably and I've been around some serious athletes, like Warren Moon's intense. But you were very intense. I thought your podcast would be the Very Intense Podcast. What is pretty intense to you? Because obviously there's a blend of persistence and patience now in your life that wasn't there when I first met you. Why pretty intense that you're trying to teach or convey?
Yeah, well, it has multiple meanings. It started out as a book. I wrote a health and wellness book that had food and workouts and mindfulness and really an entry into the mind. And that was the first section of the book, because I felt like when that's in line, it makes it so much easier to do the workouts and have the discipline, or not even the discipline, it's like the love for yourself to make the right choices that make you feel good when it comes to food. And so the mindfulness always started it. And it's just like the way that people would describe me. I thought when I was done with racing, I thought, maybe I'll have like a cooking show or something. I love to cook as well. Everything in my book I wrote and photographed myself. And so I'm like, man, I'll have a cooking show. And then I did a few little walk-on bits and over the years, and I just ended up realizing that I just love to go deep. Like I'm not here to, I could, but I'm not here to talk about a cup of flour or a half a cup of sugar. I am like here to talk about quantum physics and the nature of reality and energy and what we're here for. Like that's the stuff I'm so passionate about. And so I have the nature of me is pretty intense about everything that I do.
That's why I love being with you. We share that, and I know the rest of the hosts as well. You're incredible beyond your driving skills for sure, and it's just a blessing to have you on Office Hours. Thank you so much. Enjoy the light, enjoy the fun.
Thank you.
We look forward to next time.
Thank you guys for the questions. Those were great
Danica.
questions, and thanks for having me on, and have a great day.
We'll have you back. Thank you. She's amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, outstanding.
Absolutely.
I love that.
5'1", I think she's got enough energy and she's intense enough. She can figure out how to dunk the ball.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Office Hours. Next up, we've got Jimmy Mistry, the founder and CEO of Della Leaders Club, DLC.
Jimmy, welcome to Office Hours. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening and a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. You know, what I love about you, Jimmy, is that I get laughed at, scoffed at, and made fun of because I have really big ideas. And the people on the couch next to me have big ideas. You know, I want to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. And when I found out about the Della Leaders Club, I said, I have to be a part of this because Jimmy is a man of big ideas. Explain what and how big the Della Leaders Club is as an idea and how you got past the people laughing at you, scoffing at you, and making fun of you because your reality surpasses their imagination.
David, it's been a fantastic journey, and I agree with you completely. People have laughed at the concept of the world's first business platform. In fact, they rubbished me off initially when I started talking about it. And today it's been a day over a month when we've launched DLC globally, and we've been covered by about 210 publications across the world. So it's been an amazing journey. The way in which we went about setting up with 13 business committees, 13 lifestyle committees, inviting 4 to 5 people in a city in a committee, that gave us the clout to invite about 2,000 plus people globally. And when you invite 2,000 powerful men and women of eminence in 15 cities, the whole ball game is different. The canvas changes.
One of the things that I like about what you're setting up there, and just kind of doing some inquisition for me just prior to this conversation, it struck me that one of the things that you're addressing is something that I've run into over and over and over again with the successful clients that I work with. And it's kind of in a question, is your wallet fuller than your life? And for most of the folks, their wallet is fuller than their life. So one of the things that you're doing with DLC is moving from a life of success to a life of significance. I'm very interested, Jimmy, in how you're actually facilitating that transition from a life of success to a life of significance. I love just the dynamic in that.
Thank you, Blaine. The very foundation of DLC has been laid out on this principle of a life of success to a life of significance. If you take 100 successful people, hardly 2 to 3% of them even understand the meaning of a significant life. And we can make every endeavor to act as a catalyst to drive them via the medium of knowledge by telling them just yet what they not know. The very basis and foundation and the DNA of a life of significance rest in one simple thought process: the desire to help other humans. If you do not have that desire, you can't ever even start leading a significant life by any stretch of imagination. It is our endeavor via the medium of these 13 business committees and 13 lifestyle committees to induct and empower with as much amount of day-to-day business decision-making knowledge and lifestyle knowledge, all of it driving to help other people and thereby taking the first steps towards a significant life.
Hi, Jimmy. Great to connect. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you and learn more about the advice you would give to young leaders globally. So you have such a great business platform. Just understanding what's the advice you would give to the leaders of today that are looking to really start now and create that significance in the future.
Kim, pleasure speaking with you, and you've yourself had such an amazing journey. I was reading all about you. It's inspiring. Young leaders play a very important role within the foundation of DLC. We've got entrepreneurs, professionals, and young leaders. This is one more thing we've done, which is drastically different. All three TGs are completely different. So usually when you set up an enterprise or a community, you are either addressing entrepreneurs or you're addressing professionals or you're addressing young leaders. We try to bring all three on the same platform. For us, young leaders are the ones who are going to help us stay ahead of the curve. The ideation is going to begin with them. It is their ideas that are going to help us implement things across and thereby keeping our batteries charged to make sure we are always thinking ahead of the curve. Also, the capacity to take risk is much more in the younger generation. I guess that's the truth. The minute you get seasoned and you move away from taking more risk, when you're with the younger generation, I guess they open up your appetite to consume that.
Jimmy, Jason here. Quick question. I can feel your passion and your energy, through the screen. But I'm sure that you had some struggles. You had some obstacles you had to overcome. Let the viewers know some of the struggles so they can take some advice on how to get to the next level.
Jason, pleasure speaking with you. And yes, my life has been a struggle. Being a first generation entrepreneur, finance is a perpetual struggle. You are always filled with more ideas and less money in your pocket. You're always trying to overextend yourself. Just where to draw the line is a question mark that kind of decides whether you're wise or foolish. But if you cross the line, I've crossed that line too many times in my life. Each time it's a new challenge and a new struggle. I've pivoted and started about 7 different businesses. So when I entered hospitality from design, I was laughed and ridiculed. When I decided to get into the business of adventure and merge it with animals and for something with the mind, body, and soul with adventure, this combination was never tried before. I was again laughed and ridiculed. Each time the challenge is not to squander time in terms of convincing people, but to make sure you manage your cash flows, because that's the lifeline. You manage your cash flows no matter how starved for breath you are, as far as you get that breath that keeps you alive. So that's been a challenge. An astute, seasoned businessman has to manage his cash flows, and that's the most important and critical part.
Good.
And Jimmy, I love the way that you blend the currencies of money and faith together to achieve the success. And, I'm looking across our host today and yourself and all the guests, and, everybody's the all in, especially this Jason Waller character. He is all in and everything. He's like P.T. Barnum. I feel sorry for his wife and kids. I thought I was nuts. This guy's insane how all in he is. Jimmy, what a pleasure. I am blessed to be a part of the Della Leaders Club, the founder and CEO of Della Leaders Club, a true leader, aggregating and assimilating the greatest minds and hearts and souls with open minds, open hearts, and open hands to help one another. Thank you so much for joining us.
Such a pleasure to speak to you and to speak to all of you, Blaine, Kim, and Jason. Lovely speaking to you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you. He was incredible, the people that he's already gathered in, as he assumes. Any last comments, Blaine?
Yeah, he's approaching business as a spiritual discipline.
Yeah.
And business is a spiritual discipline. It will call out the best of you if you really pay attention. The idea of business is, you're setting goals. And goals, are not to get. Goals are to grow. And
Milestones.
if you're really looking to set goals that cause you to grow, that's where he's at.
Well, we got one of the world's greatest thought leaders next here on Office Hours.
You've heard some amazing guests this episode. Now let's hear the takeaway of the day from Jason Waller, host of the True Underdog podcast.
I'm Jason Waller with your takeaway of the day. My takeaway for today is a bit counterintuitive. You need to love your haters. Don't embrace the words of people who scoff or laugh at you. Resign yourself to proving them wrong each and every day. That's how you win.
Our next guest is Sadhguru, yogi, mystic, visionary, and founder of the Isha Foundation.
Back to the Universal Office Hours here, and I have my partner in my pursuit. He has promised to take the bigger burden of empowering the world to be happy. I've committed to at least 1 billion people to be happy. Sadhguru, welcome to Office Hours.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start off in a different question. I love to ask questions that I want to know. The biggest difficulty I have is something that Lou Holtz, a famous Notre Dame football coach, told me once. He said, David, it's not what you say, it's what they hear. And so if you're not going to speak their language, frequency, or vibration, it doesn't matter how smart you are. So my first question for you is, how do you dummy down the incredible enlightenment that you share? How do you dummy it down so that people like Dave Meltzer can understand what you do? You're ready for that
Once
question.
you
weren't you? See,
realize-
this is all pre-rehearsed, you can tell.
There are a few people in the world who have the sympathy to understand daily dumbing down everything. Yes, it's a certain amount of effort to take the most complex and profound dimensions and put it out in a way that common people understand. Common people does not mean that they have common sense.
Sadhguru, it is just such a pleasure to meet you, truly. The idea of spirit being undifferentiated, consciousness undifferentiated, and it shows up differentiated in what we call human beings. And so if I kind of come from a position that there's nobody out there but me, how do I end up beginning to have conversations with that undifferentiated spirit in a way that actually wakes that differentiated parts up? What's the easiest way to begin to approach that?
See, human societies have gotten into this conversation mode. Most people believe conversation is everything. No, our thought and our emotion is just our psychological drama. It is psychologically, in personal life and in social life, it has significance. I'm not saying it has no significance. But the moment you talk about consciousness, well, I think I will repeat this once again because there's my body and your body. When it comes to mind, there is my mind and your mind. Here and there we may overlap in our minds, but still my mind is my mind, your mind is your mind. But there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. So, you only talk to people's bodies and minds maybe. Mostly to their minds, their emotions, you speak. But if you ever experience anybody beyond that, you will see there will be no conversation because conversation is a meaningless gibberish when it comes to a dimension which is not limited within the psychological sphere. What is the significance of this? Do we have to give up our mental faculties, our physiological capabilities? No. You can use these things, you can use the prowess of your body and your mind only when there is a little bit of distance from that, because only in that distance do you really grasp the nature of your body and your mind.
If I could ask, and get your advice in terms of what is one thing that you would suggest someone do every day in order to drive that happiness? Like, is there something, what's the simplest way to create happiness from an individual perspective?
If you do not invent misery, you will be happy. Because the very nature of life is such, it's exuberant and joyful. It is just that in your mind, you will create a whole new world which is not a reality. What is happening in your mind, as I earlier said, it's just your psychological stuff. But the moment you believe what's happening in your mind is existentially true, then all these miseries come because this is your creation. There is no such thing as misery, only the misery happens in one's mind. Suffering happens only in one's mind, it never happens in the air around you. If we understand this much, if you know all your experience happens only from within you, if you're conscious of this, and if you're in charge of it, well, would you cause misery or joy to you? Because both misery and joy are produced by you. Why would any human being produce unpleasantness for themselves? Simply because they're unconscious that they are creating it. When you were a child, you were simply joyful for nothing, isn't it? So what happened? Oh, we grew up. Well, you're at the age of 5, if you are so joyful, by the time you're 30, you should be ecstatic by normal standards of growth.
I love that.
I'm listening to you, and I feel like you guys were dumbing it down for me, Dave. And so thank you. But I'm getting inspired listening to you. Dave's one of my coaches and mentors, and he talks highly of you. And so he's helping me find a way to be more spiritual in life and a way to really take it to the next level. Talk about mentors or coaches. Who was your mentor or coach that helped get you to where you are?
Yeah. This is… I must tell you, now you asked for something, I must tell you my problems now.
Okay.
Well, there we go. You got four of them. You got four of them right here on
You
the show.
simpled it down for me, so I thought I'd throw something out there.
You know, I was just 25 years of age. By then, I was in business for nearly 5.5 years at that time. And for those days, for a medium-level town in which I was living, I was very successful. But I have a billion questions in my mind, which I found nobody could answer. They would always refer to this scripture, that scripture, and they will say, somebody knew, but whoever that man, who knows if I ask? Somebody that knew is always dead. You know, I never found a person who is living and who knows. That never happened to me. Nobody really had answers for everything. So one afternoon, I just went and sat somewhere, I rode my motorcycle, parked, and I went and sat on a hill. Suddenly, I just burst into ecstatic states. I thought this is 10-15 minutes, but this lasted for about 4.5 hours. I never realized this. For the first time, I have tears of ecstasy flowing out of me. My shirt is all wet. For 4.5 hours I'm sitting there. But in my experience, I thought it must be 10-20 minutes like that. I was just looking at this, what is it? What is it that makes me burst into ecstasy like this? Then I realized that if I don't mess with my mind, if I do not put my hand into my mind, everything in my system just bursts into ecstatic states. Then I sat down and made a plan. I was 25, I thought within 2.5 years, I will make the entire world ecstatic, but 39 years, here I am. And now David has promised me, I hope he keeps this, he said he will reduce it by 1 billion for me, but the population has become nearly 8 billion. So, I will I will die as a failure, but as a blissful failure. So this is what happens to you when you shift your focus in your life from personal ambition to a larger vision. That means you will die as a failure, but a joyful failure, because you have a constipated desire and you fulfill it and you're feeling great. I think it's a stupid way to address human life. When human life has the potential to explore just about anything, you set a small desire, get there and think, I've made it in my life. This is called ambition. I think ambition is just a constipated expression of human consciousness.
Wow. Well, once again, you didn't disappoint, and I hope I don't disappoint you. I am still standing by my commitment. The incredible Sadhguru. Be sure you check out his new book as well, Karma Yogi's Guide to Crafting Your Own Destiny. You got to dream for what you want. Everything and all meaning is found within yourself. You give meaning to everything you see. So let's give a happy meaning to our lives and share abundance with one another.
Thank you.
Bless you, my friend.
Namaskaram. Thank you, all of you.
What a journey we're taking today.
Wow.
That was fun.
Your comment, wow.
Yeah.
Did I tell you?
Yes. I loved it.
You don't love it, you live it, Kim Perrell.
I love it. I love
If
it.
anyone knows Kim Perrell, she has happiness in her heart like nobody else that I've ever met, and that's why you're so successful.
And it makes sense. I mean, I have 5-year-olds and they're happy, and if at 30 you're happy, you should be ecstatic, right? Like, it's a good reminder, I think. Like a simple way to remind you to just look at things in a positive way, right?
I appreciate all three of you because I know whether it's consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously, all three of you.
Funny to me for unconscious.
Because you're a higher being. It's unconscious competency, as you would say, my friend. I am so excited for our last guest here on Office Hours.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Office Hours. I'm excited to hear from our next guest, Zach Weiner, the co-founder and president of Overtime.
All right, welcome back to Office Hours. Kim, you may look his age, but this kid is young, but he's killing it. Zach Weiner, welcome to Office Hours, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. I think, come on, with my beard, I don't look too much like a kid, right?
No, but you know what's so interesting is, I'm thinking about what's it like to be a successful entrepreneur. If I was back, I was one when I was in my 20s, but change was slow, and I thought it was fast. And then, the last 10 years have been happening since you started on your pursuit. And then the last 18 months happened. And when I just thought that, change was fast enough, they decided to accelerate it exponentially in dog years. So every month was worth about 7 months. How has the rules, the regulations for high school, college athletes, just the content itself accelerated in the last 18 months for Overtime?
From the start of Overtime, 4.5 years ago, this idea of the 16, 17, 18-year-old athlete that's on the precipice of going to the NBA or the NFL has been, a really engaging character and storyline for our now 50 million followers. We've sort of long realized there are some problems within the system for these elite of the elite athletes. There are basketball development issues, particularly in terms of how we see athletes getting to the NBA, sometimes overworked, underprepared, undertrained. There's educational issues where we see 90% of elite high school basketball players changing high schools. And unfortunately, they're doing that to solve problem one of the basketball issue. They're not doing that to solve the education. They're not getting financial literacy, mental health conversation, all the things that you would want the future role models of really not just the NBA, but of our country, and in many cases, the world to receive. And then, there's an economic empowerment issue where, these athletes are mega famous, sometimes millions of followers, sometimes more famous than their NBA counterparts. People want to watch them play. They want to see them do cool things off the court. For a long time, there's been no way for them to monetize. But what we decided to do, and we announced, about 4 months ago, is launch Overtime Elite, which is a super league for the top 16, 17, and 18-year-olds from around the world that provides those three key things. It provides amazing basketball development. It provides amazing education, a 4-to-1 student to teacher ratio, really meeting the athletes where they're at and giving them all those elements that I talked about, like financial literacy, and then economic empowerment in a true and just way, guaranteed salary for every athlete of at least $100,000. And so we're building that out, and it'll launch in Atlanta in the September-October timeline.
That's exciting stuff, Zach. With the news that just came out and how you guys are building out your platform and setting things up, fast forward to Overtime Elite in 5 years. What does that look like?
5 years from now, it will most certainly be, the premier destination for athletes to go if you want to pursue an NBA career. That doesn't mean that, every single athlete that it's the right path, but for the elite of the elite that want to achieve those dreams, I think you will see that. I hope even for athletes that don't join Overtime Elite, that they continue to get better basketball development, better education, and more economic empowerment.
Hi, Zach. Great to meet. Congratulations on all of your success. It's truly inspiring. What advice would you give all of the aspiring entrepreneurs that have yet to take the big leap and the big jump that you did? What advice would you give them?
There is sort of a leap. There is like one leap that always has to happen, which is like, I'm going to do this. And I think that a lot of it actually comes down to vulnerability. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be vulnerable because you have to put yourself out there. You have to put a stake in the ground and say, okay, I'm going to try out this idea. And it might work, it might not work, but you have to be ready for a level of failure. You have to be ready for what that might do to your ego. And if you do fail, which you probably will at some point, you have to be ready to iterate.
I love that. Just move.
Move. Einstein says, just move.
The vulnerability piece, I'm really struck by that, Zach. Old mentor of mine years ago said that we connect best through vulnerability, and then I amended that and said we disconnect through certainty. And so all of that is just by way of prefacing a question here. Ego and vulnerability. There's an interesting dynamic in play with those. As part of your model, how are you addressing the need for people to not get wrapped up in their egos so that their identity doesn't become literally a function of what they're doing, and you can keep them connected to who they are?
Unfortunately, most people in our society, including young men growing up, they think that vulnerability is a sign of weakness, and they think it's a sign of a lower ego. It has to do with being comfortable with not knowing the answer to something and asking questions. And that can be on the court and asking a coach. And I think athletes are kind of trained to do that, but they're much less trained to do that off the court. And so we're going to teach them math and science and history and all those sorts of things. But I look at our education system at large, and I even reflect on my education. And I was very fortunate to have what would be considered, sort of an elite education. But at Penn or wherever I would have went, or wherever you guys went, there's no emotional intelligence class.
Or wherever you went.
We heard you throw it in there.
Whatever junior college you made it through. Anyway, I digress. Get to it, brother.
One of the things that I'm excited about is we want to build out a curriculum that can be open source, so that other athletes can access it, but even just young people and maybe old people as well that want to learn about some of the different things that we're going to explore. And these young athletes are very influential, so I think that people will want to learn in sort of the way that they're able to learn as well.
Zach Weiner, co-founder, president of Overtime, thank you for giving your overtime to us. You're always welcome back here on Office Hours.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Zach,
Awesome
thank you very
job,
much.
Zach. What an episode.
Yeah, I think that he cares more about outside of the basketball. People getting educated, understanding what's going on, being a support mechanism for them, not just trying to get them paid. You could see his passion of what he was doing, what he was excited about. And that leap, it's either day one or one day, and he's definitely a person that today is day one. And I think that he shared that today.
Yeah, and he wasn't on a mission to get followers, but he ends up with 50 million of them, which
was
is
counting, right?
very valuable asset.
threw
It's
Penn out
almost
there
as
and
big as the True Underdog podcast.
Well, he's from an Ivy League school.
I have 2 rejection letters from them, actually, so I saved those. So, but at least they pay me to speak there now, and I'm glad to do it anytime, Penn. Anyway, what a pleasure. I have 3 incredible co-pilots on the show. Thank you so much, all 3 of you, for joining me on Office Hours. Thank you to our incredible guests. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Now, a quick word from our JA Impact honoree partner, presented by Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Junior Achievement Worldwide prepares young people for employment and entrepreneurship, delivering hands-on experiential learning in work readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. The recipient of the JA Impact honoree is selected based on their mission-driven values and have the opportunity to align with Junior Achievement Worldwide through their 100 million plus alumni network, driving awareness to their brand through Junior Achievement's millions of entrepreneurs looking to make an impact on the world.
I'm Brittany Yang, co-founder of Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. For this episode, we're honoring Sadhguru for the work he does to empower people, shift their perspective, and help them to live a life of joy and abundance throughout the world. Congrats to this week's Junior Achievement honoree, Sadhguru.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Office Hours, and a special thank you to our featured co-hosts and guests for joining today's episode. See you next week on Office Hours.